on the focus, but I do sometimes mention the central prayers, the Shema and the Amidah, but usually there's not time to go into that. It depends on what your focus is. When people are here, or if you're going out to other people.
Do you ever get asked to do it?
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're not confident about Hebrew, practice some bits and pieces. So when they say to you, "Can you read from the Torah scroll?" Or so I'm quite good on Bereshit, so I read the first few verses of Bereshit, or the Amidah or the Shema. I wouldn't do the whole Amidah, obviously, but you could do the first bit of the Shema, because they do like to hear you speaking it or reading it.
In Gifnut we've got not a kosher Torah.
Right.
You know, it's one that's, in fact, on one time I heard that, and it came in two parts. But the children like to touch it and hold it and open it. I know here we've got one open, but if you can get a practice one, you know, it's quite good. And to show that at certain part in the service, we actually hold it up and show everybody, and you know, say the words that are said. This is the Torah. I mean, there's a whole lesson in that. The Zot Torah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
One might remark that would never be left open unless granted for use.
Yes.
So
yes, okay, so, all right, so I didn't make that plain, but I do usually say that this one has become damaged, and rather than fix it so that it could be stored again and used again, I talked about the perfection that should be there. And again, depending on who I'm talking to, I would talk about, you know, the costs and how expensive it is and all the rest of it, and how expensive it is to repair it. But this would only be out because it's not as it should be, so it can't be stored with the other ones. Okay. Anybody else? Any questions?
Can I ask about the spiritual thing of the synagogue?
Yes.
Is it too grand, too beautiful, too big?
I don't, well...
Just if Jews...
Well, that's a discussion. I personally think it's got a wonderful atmosphere. I love being here. It's so beautiful, it's so light and airy, it's so open. But maybe some people would be overwhelmed. There's so many different styles of synagogue.
It was built in the fashion of English cathedrals, British cathedrals. So it was trying to do something that Judaism wasn't, whereas the one in Dundee and the one in Aberdeen, well, the one in Dundee is very different, isn't it? It's more like the Safat place.
Actually, when I do my talk downstairs with the timeline, that's the point at which I say, you know, I point out that this shows a community who were doing very well, thank you, and a community who wanted to make their mark along, you know, lots of wonderful buildings were being constructed in at that time. It's at the heart of the British Empire, second city of the British Empire. So they wanted to make their mark, they wanted to show that they too could build a beautiful building and were worthy of respect and had their place in the community.
And surprise, surprise, 5 years later, 13,000 poor Jews from Russia arrive. What are they doing?
No, but it was also built in the very typical fashion of the time all over Europe, where you had the Moorish style.
Yes, it wasn't.
It was not it was not cathedral-like. It was Moorish, because they said the Jews come from the Orient. So if you go through Germany, Switzerland, whatever, of the period also is.
Well, it's interesting. The architect of the synagogue was not actually Jewish. The main architect. He was a Scotsman, but he did consult with a Jewish architect who was responsible for designing synagogues in London. And you're right, people are very surprised by the Moorish style, but it was an idea of the exotic and how to represent, you know, what Jewish heritage was about.
A lot of the great synagogues in Europe have this Moorish style,
absolutely.
you know.
Yeah.
Fiona, go back to your comment about after the synagogue was built in 1879, 5 years later, 13,000 Russian Jews. That was during the period of the pogroms?
I'm going to talk about that downstairs.
Good, thank you, because I think that's really interesting.
And I will point out that we shouldn't only be talking about pogroms. There were very many reasons why people were leaving Russia and coming here.
Thank you.
May I say something else about the Shul architecture? Because in the Rhineland, where one has probably among the earliest synagogues of the medieval time even, there it is very similar to the church architecture. And the synagogues which were built after Napoleonic time, when the Jews got the more freedom in most places, and there was a real wave of new building synagogues, they were in the Moorish style, because that was the perception that Jews were from the East.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you talk about bar mitzvah and throwing?
Yes, well, that's another. If you want to talk about throwing sweeties, I don't necessarily mention throwing sweeties, but you can.
Oh, the children love to hear that.
Yes,
I would say you'd have loved to have been here on Shabbat.
On the other hand,
Yeah.
it's meant to be more it's meant to be about more than. So yes, it's another event that would happen that I would mention is a bar mitzvah. I would also say that in other sections of Judaism that girls also will celebrate in the same way. And yes, I would talk about what age it happens at, what's expected of them, what it means. And then it's a great celebration
And
and
it's a
party.
bridegroom as well,
and
yes, as well.
But that wouldn't be my focus. I know it appeals to children.
It's not in the Torah, it's just a little minhag of modern
Yes.
invention.
And if
But it happens.
Yeah, and you encourage them to throw soft sweets and not hard toffees. Yes, exactly. So would anyone like to, I'm conscious we've run over time a bit, would anyone like to actually to see the Torah scrolls? Again, this is a wonderful thing to, children and adults alike are very overawed when they see the grandeur, and it emphasises, if you are able to show an ark, or if you're going to school to take a picture of an ark with Torah scrolls, it emphasises the respect and honour that you give to the Torah, that you construct this grand edifice to store them in, that you decorate them beautifully, and you keep them very safe. So I'll open up the ark just now and let you all have a wee look, and then we can go downstairs.
I wonder, do you ever refer to the interpretation of the rules as are stated in the Torah? Because the Muslim children probably know that from the Hadith, and that we have the Halakha, which basically adapts the rules from the Torah to the daily.
Yeah, well, yes, I mean, I have introduced it, and we've talked about the rules of what you are or aren't allowed to do on Shabbat, and also, I mean, it very strongly comes up in the kitchen, and when you're talking about kashrus, and about the fact that yes, we have to have the Torah, we don't necessarily have to have a synagogue as grand as this, but to emphasise that what you do at home and in your life is just as important as coming to the synagogue and what you do in the synagogue. So that all can come into it. But if you're doing something and you have a particular spin, then this all has to be quite personal. There's certain things that I've worked on getting, trying to hone down the things that I think it's important that you share with people that are, the central concepts that you might want to share with people. But everybody has their own spin or their own understanding or subjects that they want to discuss, and you have to react to the people that you have in front of you as well.
Yeah, I think you've got a really important role though when you were talking about when the classes come, they'll see what they've been focusing on, whether they're primary or secondary. So that'll determine what's actually in it and what's suitable age-wise.
Yeah.
You cannot cover everything.
No.
And it's the most important thing is that the children leave with a positive feeling.
Yeah.
And they will not cover everything, and the academic side of things is not dreadfully important as far as with religious and moral education. The idea is that the children have an acceptance that people have lots of different values, different faiths. Some of the children coming here will have no faith, and it's really about a positive attitude leaving. They have nothing to compare it to.
That's actually very interesting. I've noticed that actually over the years, that you can't make assumptions about them knowing anything or being involved with any religion whatsoever.
That's right.
So you can't even say, in a church, you'll know that, because they might not know that.
they will have learned it on the same level
Yes.
as they will learn about Judaism
Yes.
and about Islam, because it may not be in their home.
Correct.
So that's the whole
Yes.
point of RME in schools. It's so that they're taught. And I, as a Christian, when I teach Christianity, talk about Christians believe, or because I'm a Christian, I believe, but it's not indoctrination. So it's almost like on a level playing field. Okay, there is a greater emphasis towards Christianity within Scotland, but some of the children are coming with very little working knowledge of a religion. It's just an academic knowledge.
Yeah.
About
just
50 years.
being in the building is wonderful, actually talking to Jewish people that are,
Real live and walking
yeah,
around.
I don't know how
and
normal I look or how normal any of you look, but, semi-normal. Just to show that, we're ordinary people like you. We just do things a bit differently, think a bit differently. You might get, and I know you're going to address the difficult questions, what about Jesus? What about Christmas? What about Easter? So you deal with that because they have become actually largely secular celebrations as well. So I would discuss that. It depends.
May I put in something just a moment?
Yes.
Might be of general interest. 50 years ago, approximately, Philip Hobsbawm, the poet, coming here to a lectureship in English, said, looking at the syllabus, but they aren't given as the prescribed reading before starting English literature, the Bible, by which he meant the King James Version. And they looked at him and said, young man, you don't know what you're talking about. They've all read it. They've all heard it. So he didn't get his way. 30 years later, he tried it, and they said, far too hard. So it was never compulsory.
I mean, that's what, but most people have heard about, Adam and Eve and the flood and all the rest of it.
But
But
he
they won't
wanted them to
have
have the cadences.
No, I know, absolutely. I was just trying to get over, what's in there, what we're about. Yes. Okay, so I would, if you get the opportunity, as Diana says, actually show a scroll.
Yeah, I use patterns for modern language.
So I do invite people to come up here and stand, not get too close. And usually I will invite people in specific groups. I spoke about it down there, but actually this is the point I'm showing the scrolls of why we need more than one. For festivals, special readings at the time of the new moon, and I point out the wonderful decorations, the velvet, the gold embroidery. I talk about the rimonim, the crowns and the bells, so that when the Torah is being carried round the synagogue, then everyone hears, sweet music and is aware that the Torah is there, and they should be focusing and their attention should be drawn to it. And I ask if anyone has any questions that they would like to ask.
Do you talk about music at all?
Again, it depends. Yes, you can talk about the fact that it's very unusual to particularly in this part of the world, and the tradition has become that there's no music, from a musical instrument in a synagogue or not during services. And you can talk about the fact that the Torah, when it's being read, is being chanted leaned, that much of the service is sung, that you'd have a cantor leading it. I haven't mentioned a rabbi either yet. You might want to talk about a rabbi. But I do point out to everybody, rabbi means teacher, and it doesn't have the same role as a priest or whatever, that they're somebody learned in Judaism who follows the halakha, the law,